All right, we're gonna start off by heating some oil in a Dutch oven pan. Dutch oven, regular pan. This is just a cast iron pan. We're gonna add in about 3 cups of shiitake mushrooms. This makes a big batch, and we're only making a big batch here because we love this soup so much. So 3 cups is a double batch. Feel free to half that, so 1.5 cups. Now it looks like a lot of mushrooms, but the mushrooms are gonna actually shrink as they cook and soften. So we wanna make sure we coat every shiitake mushroom with that oil. Now it's funny, I had this conversation today with my students and yesterday, and I told them in baking you have to be more precise with your measurements, but with cooking is all about the flavor, okay? It's a bit more forgiving. So if you need to add more oil to the pan, feel free to add more oil. We want to make sure we coat all these mushrooms because we want them to cook. The reason you see me constantly stirring is because I don't want them to stick. So if you're making a half a batch, we're looking at 1.5 cups of shiitake mushrooms. You can use portobellas, you can use really any kind of mushroom. White buttons, but the shiitakes go perfect for this dish. And you see how we started with a lot of mushrooms, and they've recently now just shrunken down because they're absorbing all that oil. And they're starting to soften because they're cooking. 2 tablespoons of ginger, ground ginger, or you can use the ginger paste. And all we're doing right now is just sauteing, cooking those mushrooms, letting that ginger infuse the mushrooms. Okay. Give me a second. Let me go to the sink. Unless you want to grab this part. All right, so we're going to add about 8 cups of water here. Now I have a vegetable broth base that I'm using here, so we're using about 16 vegetable cubes that we've mixed in with water, and now we're just going to combine that. Okay. Now, if you've not seen my Super Cubes video, I encourage you to go check that out. But this makes a perfect Super Cubes recipe that you can store, freeze, and heat up for leftovers. All right, we're gonna bring that to a boil. So we're gonna increase the heat. We're gonna bring it to a boil, and then we're gonna reduce it down to a simmer. And when we come back, we're gonna finish this soup. All right, so our soup is at a boil. At this point, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna turn down the heat, bring it down to a simmer, okay? Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and add in about 1 cup of tofu. And this is really it. I mean, this is the soup. Now we're gonna just balance it with some flavors. We're gonna taste it, and we're gonna finish it up. But it's that simple. This soup is so easy. And the one thing I love about cooking, so many varieties, so many different ways to cook something. And when I go out to eat, I get inspired because I wanna do the same thing at home because it's cheaper to eat soup like this at home than to go out and pay $8 for a bowl of it. So anyone can cook. Famous line from Ratatouille, anyone can do it. You just have to have the skills, and that's what the purpose of this channel is to teach you those skills. So I've added about 6 ounces of firm tofu, about 1 cup, and now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna add in our soy sauce and our bamboo shoots. Now if you've never had bamboo shoots, they look like this. They usually come in the can. They're in the Oriental section. And they just add a nice little crunch. There's really no flavor to them whatsoever, other than they provide that nice crunch. And we're gonna just mix that in. And it looks like a lot. It is. I mean, this is a very hearty soup. And surprisingly, most kids don't like mushrooms. But when you make it this way, the flavors kind of mask that mushroom flavor. And, I mean, you like it, Aiden, right?
Yep.
And now we're going to add in our soy sauce. Now, I like to use a low sodium reduced soy sauce. So I'm using about 1/3 cup. Again, stir gently. And you can see, if you take a look at my soup right now, it's not boiling. It's at a low simmer. It's still cooking, but it's not boiling. Yeah, I mean, that's beautiful. It's got a nice, the soy sauce really adds the saltiness. I think the only thing that's missing is maybe a little fresh cracked black pepper. So we'll go ahead and we'll season it with some fresh cracked black pepper. Now, hot and sour. The sour is going to come in right at the end, because right at the end, we're going to toss in some vinegar. And that's what's going to add to the hot and the sour. But there's one more ingredient I want to add to this. I'm going to add in a chili pepper, just to give it some heat. And I'm going to include those seeds, because that's where the heat is going to reside in a pepper. And right in, just like that. Give that a gentle stir. And right before we add in that vinegar, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to make a slurry here. And all a slurry is it's going to help us thicken our soup. So I'm going to take some cornstarch, no particular amount, and some water, and we're going to give that a stir. Cornstarch and water, eventually the cornstarch will separate and float to the bottom. So once you make your slurry, you want to be ready to go to add it to your soup. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit at a time, and I'm going to give it a stir. Okay? Now, in order for that cornstarch to start to thicken your soup, you got to let it heat up. The heat is what activates the thickness to occur. All right? We're going to increase that heat because we want to get that soup nice and thick, and we're almost done. We're literally minutes away from being done. We're going to go ahead and add in 3 tablespoons of distilled white vinegar. This gives the soup that sour taste. Now, it's not like a Sour Patch Kid sour or a Warhead sour. It's just it's a balance of flavor. When I go out to eat, I love this soup. The best place that makes this soup is actually called P.F. Chang's. And they charge about $9 or $10 for just a bowl of this. It's about how much I spent on all these ingredients. And look at how much soup we got. I love this soup because it's so healthy. It's so filling. That tofu is your protein. This is 100% vegetarian. But it's not going to be vegetarian at the end because we're going to add in some chicken dumplings in just a sec. You can use vegetable dumplings. But I bought these pre-made dumplings, so we're just going to put them in and we're going to let them cook. All right, and now we're going to plate it up. It's all ready to go. We're just going to let those dumplings cook for about 2 or 3 more minutes. Okay, so now soup's ready to be served. Our dumplings are cooked. Our soup is smoking hot. And in the plate we go. Get that tofu, dumpling, get some of that pepper. Okay. I'm just going to garnish it with a little bit of scallions. And there is a homemade, from scratch, hot and sour soup. So if you've seen my Super Cubes review, Super Cubes, you got to go watch it. You got to go check it out, okay? Links in the description for where you can find these. But Aiden, let's show them how easy it is to portion out your leftovers.
Right.
I'm using the Super Cubes 1 cup. I'm using the Super Cubes 1 cup measurement. And we're just gonna fill these up with our soup. Now, you know me, I'm not a big fan of freezing things, but sometimes you have to, and it just makes for an easy portioned meal. And we'll do the same thing over here. And what I love about these Super Cubes is that they're so easy to pop out, put into Ziploc bags, and to take anywhere, or to have a perfectly portioned out portion for dinner or lunch. This is just a soup that I love eating for leftovers. And that's it. That's how simple. Don't worry about the excess. We're gonna grab their lid. And what makes Super Cubes so great is that the rim is got reinforced steel so that you can stack and walk to your freezer in confidence, okay? And that is the Super Cubes 1 cup tray.